Smiling. It's as far as it goes for me. So you'll see a lot of books showing you all these different handholds. Me, I got dinosaur hands. So I'm going to put my hands on top of each other because you need to hold the occiput in your hand. So if I'm going like this, I'm already going very far out. So you need to hold the occiput, and your thumbs need to be on the mastoid processes. They need to be posterior to that mastoid suture. There's a mastoid suture. That part of the mastoid is occipital bone, and most of the mastoid is temporal bone. Okay, but part is occipital bone. So you want to be only on the occiput. So in order for me to be only on the occiput, I'm going to put my hands on top of each other, and I'm going to put my thumbs together like this. Now, to do this cv4, it requires that you feel the rhythm. If you can't feel rhythm, this will be an exercise for you, but Alfred and Victor and I will try and help you. So if I'm following flexion and extension, this is flexion, okay? Flexion will be the idea, your hand isn't traveling, okay, but it'll be the idea of pressure coming into your hand, okay? If we said that the order is on the order of a couple hundred microns, this is flexion, this is extension, flexion, extension, okay? So you're going to follow him, flexion. When he goes into extension and the hand comes back, you're going to take your thumbs and put a little bit of medial pressure, which means you're going to roll them together. So you're putting pressure this way, and you're going to just hold that while you're in extension. And that flexion extension should come to a stop. Once that comes to a stop, we say they are in still point. When they're in still point, you may just relax your hand. At some point, you'll feel that pressure start to push your hand into the table again. For me, what it feels like is an engine that's starting up, starting up, starting up, and then it starts to cycle through. That's the sensation I have. The application of it is whenever you would feel like doing it. This will be therapeutic. I don't want to give you, a Band-Aid, do this, fix all, everything in everybody's life. But still point is at no point is this going to be bad for him to be in a still point. It would be like saying, is it ever bad for Joe to relax?
But that's what they taught in the up-ledger class.
What?
For therapeutics, what to fix.
Yeah, I know. They
like cookbook.
Well, they have to.
For B, C for D.
They have to because of the way that they're doing it. But it's not the way it should be done. So it's never good for Joe to relax. Wait, it's always good for Joe to relax. Unless Joe is a surgeon, then you should not relax, and you should stay very high wired while you're working. Okay, so I have my thumbs close to each other, and I'm going to follow him. This is flexion. This is going into extension. Going into flexion. Putting a little bit of pressure, and he's already he's fading on me. Going into extension, he's stopped. He started going into still point while he was still in flexion. Not what the book says, but it's the reality. Upledger gives you a cookbook for how to do this, but it's different. You don't need to do this technique this way to put him into still point. He's in still point now. Now I can just relax my hand. And at some point, his body will start to push my hand back into, push my hands back into the table. And now he's doing it. And it's just a fuller feeling that you have. The way that we learned this in the osteopathic world is that he will go into extension, or we'll put him into extension, he will go into a still point, and that you have to wait How long do you wait? Well, it's an indeterminate period of time. That's what we learned. That could actually be a long time. What I've experienced is this, is I put him into still point and I'm following the rhythm with him. This is an intimate thing. I let him have a little bit of time to enjoy himself. And I have the thought, you ready, Joe? And then he comes out. He moves, because I am not waiting for Joe's convenience. Joe's convenience might be 10 minutes from now. I'm not going to do, I don't have that kind of time. When you're doing this dance with him, you'll lead and he will follow. You lead him into relaxation, you can let him be there, or you can say, we're kind of done now. One thing that Upledger did not do on my, in mass classes, because I knew John as an individual, and I spent the better part of a year with him one-on-one, seeing patients. There's a different John outside of CST, which is for, CST is for everyone who wants to do whatever they want to do. John told me when he was doing things like this, he said, I don't have all day for this. He said, I say to myself, he said, is there anything else you want me to do? In his mind, not as a mantra, like you're saying it, to repeat it. He said, there's a connection you have with the patient. He said, we're getting to the end now. Is there anything else you want me to do for you? And their body responds to that. I believe that. I don't believe it, I experience that. Whether it's craziness or not craziness, I already can't prove cranial to you. I can only show you the pictures that I've shown you. I can show you what happens when a suture really is closed. It's horrific looking. And I can show you histologically that there's a collagen river in there. The bones aren't closed, or you would look strange. Okay? I can show you that. I can't prove to you the motion that's happening. It's just an experience.
So, two questions. One is, if you leave the person in still point for a longer period of time, is that any better for them?
From the seminar junkies, and I don't want to use that, it's going to come out bad when I say that. If we're going to teach cranial to everybody who just wants to have some fun really quickly, you're going to get a cookbook, okay, that's what you need to do, and the longer is better, and this and that.
Okay.
The reality, the clinical reality, is I was seeing patients every 20 minutes. And in 20 minutes, I do cranial, I do myofascial, I do visceral, I do cranial in 5 minutes. And what I found is 5 minutes of doing a cranial vault release, releasing the sacrum, 5 minutes worth of dedication for cranial. I have a caseload of seriously screwed up people. I don't have a caseload of just rich people with too much money. Yeah, I have some of that, but some of those pictures I showed you, I have those. I have kids with seizures. I have kids that are autistic. I've failed on plenty. So if you think I'm demagoguing here, I'm not. I failed on plenty, but I've gotten some autistic kids to speak who've never spoken a word. 12 years old, never spoken a word. I don't know why. Something released in their head. So I have real cases and I've had real results. Not just airy-fairy, fluffy, I hope everybody feels happy thing. I'm answering the long answer to your question. If we're going to do everybody have a good time, do cranial, go to sleep.
And the second question that I had was, you said at one point when he reached a still point, now you let your hands relax, meaning that they weren't relaxed before? Like, they were engaged in something before and now they're okay.
There's a physical engagement. Flexion, here's the rules. Flexion, extension, flexion. Okay, you can sit up, Joe. Okay. And I'm going to show on someone else so that you can see. Where's Mabel? Here. Hiding behind me. I'm so fat, a lot of people can hide behind me. Ken. Because if I go like the books are showing me, I'm all over her head. And I'm putting my thumbs close together. So it's flexion, extension, and then there's some pressure you put with your thumbs.
Okay.
And then I do nothing.
Okay.
So there's some engagement.
So you're not actually flexing and extending, you're following the flexing and extension. Following the flexing and
correct,
extension. Okay.
Relax. What I have experienced more and more is there's a response between you and the patient, and it's subconscious. You are in this. We're going to go into crazy realm when we get into the advanced cranial. There's physical motions that you're doing. There's non-physical things. There's intention, and people respond to it. What I can say about intention and things that are not physically pushing and pulling, is there's a response to it. I'm not a scientist, but again, I've a lot of caseload for a lot of years of getting some results where a lot of things haven't. I will not be the researcher to tell you exactly how it worked. Some of it is pushing and pulling that I can identify. She's going into flexion now. And some of it is being in this quiet space with the patient. Because this has to be a quiet space. In that quiet space, if I move right, she comes right. If I go left, she goes left. If she trusts me. It's not about range of motion at all. I'm following her into extension. She's taking a nice full extension. I'm going to go low pressure with my thumbs. She stops. Quite honestly, this is the way I was taught. But you can put her into still point without doing it this way at all. If you're following that dance with her, you can go slightly ahead with your hands and stop, and she will stop. If you want to make it a cookbook, this is your answer on the screen. And a lot of the osteopathic world, craniosacral world, they use the cookbook. The cookbook is okay if you cannot do more than that. Now what I feel is I feel a lot of pulsing behind her head. It's all arterial pulse. She'll stay here forever. She's not in a hurry to go anywhere. I'm in a little bit more of a hurry than Mabel is. So I relax, my hands relaxed, and she starts to come out of it. And it's just I feel a more full feeling pushing my hand into the table. If the whole thing is nonsense, if the whole thing is, I don't believe that's really happening. Am I doing any harm to her? No. Not doing any harm to her.